Hi, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Real, More Than Existing. And today you'll see by the side of me, I have a dear friend of mine, Lisa Starr Francis, the word alchemist. We truly are coming in today from a place within our hearts of gratitude and love, and with purest of intentions to stay within our Christ-like, our God-like energy, and to bring forth a podcast of which we have no idea. But I can tell you that it is based around the power of our words and the conviction that we have in our hearts to be able to live from a place of good intentions and pure intentions, as we are creating a world of, or as we're trying to create our own world, our own place of peace within us, to live from a place of virtue, of a virtuous life, I guess, of being the best human being that we could be, and to honor each other as women, and to be able to look at what we're accomplishing and doing in the world, to be to vibrate on a higher frequency, to live from our highest self. And Lisa is one of those people that I met many years ago, and many now, 3 or 4 years ago, in Austin, Texas. Back in, I always say it's one of the most magical events of my life, in just how it all unfolded and how we met and how it all came together, and the women that I met during that time. And our lives have all changed so much since we've met. And Lisa is what we call the word alchemist, and she and she has created this system based around our healing, around the use of our words and the power of our words. Our words are energy, and once we give emotions to them and we attach our emotional connection to our words and to the statements that we make, and until then they are just words. They're not powered and charged, but your words trigger you, and we're triggered by words. And I really wanted to bring Lisa in to have a discussion around the power of our words. And I want to say first, Lisa, welcome. But I
Thank
also
you.
want to say that I had a big story that came through around the word I. And when we spoke about in Lisa Speaks in my More Than Existing program in the level 1, and we spoke about I. And
Hmm.
one of our students mentioned about why I being a trigger word. And I didn't realize until that moment that I was a trigger word for me. And so the power of I am is a place that I work from on such a big level, my connection to God, and being connected to the Christ-like energy, and to find out that, in as far as advanced as I am, that I've been triggered by I for a long time, and I was being very selfish. In that was the story behind it. So there's been a lot of changes happening in my life in the past few days of just acknowledging this. So there's something magical and wonderful about what Lisa does, something that really, truly, and what she's created is out of this world. And so before I let Lisa even talk, I want to just say what you're going to see today of Lisa and what Lisa has created is her system, and it's a system based around words and colors and patterns, is the way I look at it. And there's a lot to it. It's a massive system. It is not out yet, but it's going to be being published hopefully soon, that it will be available. I have a set. Few people have a set, but she does this every single day faithfully, that she pulls one of her cards and she does a reading around that card on her Facebook Live, Lisa Starr Francis. But the cards are all, the paintings are done by, and she's very humble. So the paintings on every card is actually created through Lisa. The back of the cards has what looks like crossword puzzles. I've seen my grandmother always did crossword puzzles. It's like all these words for each letter of the alphabet. It is the biggest system I have ever seen. It is brilliant. She's brilliant. How it's created, what it does for us, and how it helps us be able to move beyond our words and to shift and change our energy and to do healing of how we are triggered by words is incredible. So this is Lisa Starr Francis, and I want her to show you her system and to tell us a little bit more about the system.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Corrie.
You're
So,
welcome.
um, I have created this system. Um, it was a guided thing. I didn't really create it in my own head. It happened to me and through me, and I did participate in being an active listener and then an active doer to what I heard. So, you know, I did do it, So there is an element of humbleness, yes, because I did do it. So I take credit for the doing, but the greatest part about it was the listening part. And so yes, I made this system with the help of spirit, and it has come to help us all with how we are affected by words and how. And when you talk about this, people really think that we're talking about the words that we hear one another use. But
Yeah.
really, we're talking about not just what we hear one another saying, because I could say all the right things. You could say any of us can say all the right things on the outside. But generally, a lot of us, it's been my experience in my own life, my worst saboteur would have been the voice inside my head that would come at any any time it wanted to show up, just to tell me how I couldn't, basically achieve or be or whatever the circumstances were. The voice would show up to tell me something not so positive about myself. And it's been my experience that most of us have that type of thing that goes on. So even while we are talking the talk and living our lives, we can have this whole other thing going on. And if we don't address it at some point, it will, help us sabotage ourselves. It will. It'll just help us
Exactly.
do it.
Right. Yes.
It'll really help us do it. So um, at whatever point that we wake up and decide that we realize that indeed other people can come to our life and affect us. They do. People come and we have experiences with people and it affects us. But
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
really affects us more than how we think about ourselves is really the truth about it. And when we're thinking about ourselves, we're thinking in words. Even if we're seeing pictures, even if we see the picture of, the park in our head, we see the park. We're not thinking PARK necessarily, but we have associated the visual of a park with the word park. So we are seeing park, even if we're
Yes.
not seeing park. We have a connection. So everything is always, you know, coming back to kind of like words that we hear, and how do those words um, affect us. And many of us can say out loud, like if I go, hey, right now, give me 3 words that when you hear them, you just cringe. And most people could at least give you 3 words that,
Like God,
what?
like how people react to hearing God.
Right. God could be one of those words. But yeah, so people will automatically have at least 3 words that they will say. If you ask them, it's not hard for people to do that. But if you were to say to someone, do you like the word I? Like what you were talking about, the word I, most people are going to say, yeah. Like they're not going to think they don't like that. So what I found to be true is that using this system, it's become clear from the early beta time until now, where it's been done by lots of people, lots of times. So I know it's not fake. I know it really does happen. We find out that words like us, really, about, so, we find out all those words. Actually, we don't like that word so. When someone says so in a sentence, it's usually leading to something that we're not, it's a conclusion that we don't want to hear or something like that. So when we start to look and we go, so I'm using so in a sentence and I'm using it over and over again. And so is a word that's a hidden trigger for you. So as I'm saying so many times, so this and so that, what's happening inside of you is that you're being like little, it's like little pings. And if enough little pings happen while I'm talking, it won't matter if you thought I was A1 fabulous at the beginning of this. You will now be ping, ping, pinged so many times. You go, I can't even relate to what she's saying. Okay, because that's what happens to us. So here we are. We're all in the world. We're walking around. There's always language, either on billboards, magazines, social media. We're inundated either with hearing it or reading it. So now imagine you have all these hidden words that you don't even know are triggers, and someone is just speaking normal sentences, and 10 of your trigger words are in their 15-word sentence. For sure, you didn't hear their sentence. You were triggered, and the other 5 words, you didn't even hear them. And they might have been the 5 words that were actually important to you, but now you can't hear them because the triggers have happened. So in my system, I would say the greatest thing about my system is that it will help you uncover those hidden words, and it will help you find them easily, whatever ones your souls are ready for, because my system is so clean that it's never going to give you what your soul has not agreed to clean, because my system is based on Ho'oponopono, not meaning that I based it on it, but every painting, every piece of the work that's done, I am doing my own personal Ho'oponopono practice as I'm making these things. So it's in there, and it's written into the code that who's ever using it their soul has to agree that I'm ready for these words, or even if a trigger word is on the card as you read it, if your soul hasn't agreed to get rid of knockout, when knockout gets said, you're not going to be triggered by it because you haven't agreed to clean that word yet. So for sure, that's part of how well the system works. So what happens is that through this system, you get to identify easily, simply, without much fanfare. You don't have to go into the old story and relive it, but you'll be revealed a bunch of words. And then you'll look at those words and you'll go, oh, that all had to do with that time when my grandfather told me I was never going to get that basketball in that net. And ever since then, I never believed I could, or whatever. You're going to realize the story that those words were connected to. And when you recognize it, it'll be because your soul, that's the story that you told your soul you're ready to work on. So you're going to recognize it. And then simply and easily, you do a little joining dot process that is dictated by the cards you pulled, how many times you do it. You do this process. It lets you undo the effects of those trigger words that have been holding you hostage. And then the next step in that, it lets you join those words to a new story that you create with these other cards that you have picked out. So you get to rewrite the words for yourself and for your highest good, so that ever after that time, when you hear those words, you don't have some soul memory pinging off. You don't have some body memory. I won't even call it soul memory, but you don't have a body memory that is on alert. You have a body memory that says, oh, isn't that a nice word? That's what you have. So that is a unique thing that the system does do. I say that's the uniquest, but the publisher that turned me down would say that the unique thing is that a person can actually with my system, create very personal mantras and affirmative statements for their own use, and they can get a process to put it into action in their life. And my system offers that. So, and we all need to transform our words at some level. And the other thing is that often we haven't had a way to identify, like we get the word amazing. Let's just say amazing. It's going across here, so that's why I grabbed it. But we get the word amazing and it means something to us. And we think amazing is this, right? But what if you're seeing the word amazing all week long in different places, is it really just meaning amazing, as in that's amazing, like the dictionary tells us? Or are you seeing amazing 6 times in 1 week in odd places as a sign for you, like you're seeing a hawk every day for 6 days, or a fox every day for 6 days? We would look that up. We go, I've seen that for 6 days. I'm going to look that up. Well, if we saw the word amazing for 6 days, where we're going to look that up, we're basically going to look that up in a dictionary. We're not going to be able to look necessarily the spiritual meaning of the word amazing. I mean, you can get the spiritual meaning of names, you can look those up, but not really each individual word in the language can you look up. But in this system, you could take that word amazing and go to the cards with that word and have the cards that match those letters tell you what amazing means for you, which has nothing to do with amazing. you know?
In my book, I write about I said the dictionary freaking lies. And when I wrote I am done, I'm finding joy and happiness no matter the cost. I'm like, the dictionary freaking lies. And I write that throughout my book. It's like, the dictionary lied to me. It told me a lie of what that word meant, because finding joy and happiness looked nothing like it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't look like it. It's nothing to do in what the dictionary says it should feel and look like. There's a whole different experience happening for me based around those words. And my words, I don't find happiness to be something I want to keep searching if this is what it is. And it's like, but I recognize that, and I knew that through my work with your system, right, of cleaning my words, and both Lisa and I working cleaning our work. And because we do that, we do our Ho'oponopono. I can't even say it because I can't even get it out. Ho'oponopono. And it's like, and so I'm always like tangling around it. But it's something that when you clean up your act, when you clean up your connection, when you don't have a personal history or attachment no longer triggering you to the words, everything changes, right? And so there's something of those experiences that when you start to recognize one word, you start to recognize when you do one word with Lisa, or you start now you're awake and aware to the fact that all words are tied to an energetic connection to stories, or to past
Right.
history, past story, right?
Right. Well, because the card's intent is that if you get near these cards, they want to wake you up to that. They want to wake you up enough that you will, at whatever level you come in at. So, many people that are going to come and find this work are going to have been on the path for a long, long time. So they're going to be quite aware of, their self-sabotage mechanisms and things like that. So different level of awareness is going to be, everybody's going to get something depending on where they're at. But once once you do one of these processes once and you realize, oh, I didn't like the word about. I hear that word 1,000 times a day. We're talking about this, we're talking about that. I mean, what if you find out you don't like a word that you've been hearing multiple times a day, and then you do the change thing, and you recognize now that you're hearing it differently? When you actually have that experience, that opens the gateway for you to realize that you will begin to see. Like I say to people, once you kind of open that door, you can actually start to keep a list. You'll notice, oh, I was talking to so-and-so, and when she said that word 3 times, I realized I did not like that word. I go, collect your words, collect the words. When you actually notice that you're pinged, you should be writing those down. Type them in your phone so that the next time you do the exercise, if you have the cards, you can do it. So you can always bring your own list of words to add to the words that you're going to find using the cards. So we're not restricted just to the words that are on these cards. There certainly is an opening and an invitation to every other word in the language. Because I think there's over 5,000 words in the system.
It's crazy how many words are in the system. It's crazy. It's like, so can you just show them the card, show them the front and the back, just so they can see what we're even talking about?
Okay, so this is a front, And this is a back.
Yeah. And there's 104?
Yeah, there's 104. So let me try to find a front that's not so dark. And so the cards, what we consider is that each part of the card, that's a better lighting, each part of the card is considered, I call them prompts. So the image is considered a prompt. This this little letter of the alphabet you would find on every card, I consider the letter a prompt. The spiraling dotted heart that the letter's with, that is because in all my original work before the deck happened, all my work had the spiraling dotted heart on it. And by the time I was making the system, the spiraling heart had become part of a thing that I was giving my at then one-on-one clients things to do when they left after they had a reading. I was giving them something to do. So the dotted spiraling heart has become something that we use as part of the process. But it is on here because every dot that I dot, I say the Ho'oponopono prayer. So the Ho'oponopono prayer is in every dot. The Ho'oponopono prayer is in the entire image itself because the images themselves, when I paint, I write the Ho'oponopono phrases in different colors of paint on the canvas, and then I move the paint around. And I never know what I'm doing, and they turn out the way they turn out. I only know the colors that I'm starting with, basically. So there's Ho'oponopono in the image. There's Ho'oponopono in those dots. The letter is another prompt. I consider all the words, the word list is a prompt. Even the little hearts between the words are part of the system and part of the prompts. And all of these different prompts help you to get your message and to get your process. Now, you look at the front and you notice there's no names on the cards. The cards are named, but when you want to, different processes, different layouts use the cards differently. So putting the name on the card would not be advantageous to some of the processes, some of the ways that you work with the cards. So in order to know the names of the cards, you would have to go into the guidebook and you would have to look for your letter. So in the case of this card that I have, I would be looking for the page that has the letter, C. So I would go in my book, I would find my page C, and I would then be able to look in the book and go, oh, there's my C card. And if I was using the one layout that wants the names used, I would read the name, The Dream is Real. And then that would be part of the message that I would be prompted to be writing for myself. So unlike other systems where you pull the card and the writing is there for you, telling you what that means, these cards are used in 4 different ways within the book itself. There can be used a lot of other different ways, but 4 different ways. And depending on how you're using them will depend on whether you're actually going to use that name. Because if you're doing one of the layouts, you're just looking at the image and you're deciding what it is. So you might say, for me, I always see the moon in here. This is a moon card to me.
Can I have a Corrie moment and tell you what I see? Corrie all over the place, right? So I see Mother Mary in that card. Like, as soon as I'm looking at that today, I just heard loud and clear, and the dream is real. And I started to laugh. I'm like, that kind of goes a little bit with the conversation before we come in. I'm like, the dream is real. It's like, this is Mother Mary. And it's like, there's a transformation. And in that card, the first thing I seen was ceremony. And I'm like, oh.
Right. Because in that layout, if you didn't see something in the picture, if you didn't say, oh, like me, I go, oh, that seems like something to do with the moon. I would have written moon. That would have been what I would write down. But let's say I'm not me. I don't see the moon, but you saw the letter C and the word ceremony came to you. So the C is meant to be the second prompt on this card. Like if you don't look at it and go moon, in that layout, it'll tell you next look at the letter and the picture together, the image and the letter. And then the image in the letter says to you ceremony. Right? So you would be writing down ceremony. That's how you do the one thing. So let's say you looked at this and you didn't get anything from the picture and you didn't get anything from the letter. All is not lost, because at that point you would be told, turn the card over with your eyes closed and then open your eyes, and the first word you see with your eyes is the word you would write down to use with this card. So then you would open your eyes and you'd say crow, and you would write down crow, right? So that's why the names are not on the cards, because some of the things this deck wants you, the user, to be tuning into your intuition and not just take my meaning for this card, because my meaning was the moon, but hers was Mother Mary. And Mother Mary for Corrie means more than the moon.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right? And if she looked up the name after seeing Mother Mary and saw the dream is real for herself, that would be some kind of confirmation for her. But so the cards are designed in a way to allow that to happen differently for different people. And, my husband was one of my first, guinea pigs with the deck. And the only cards that he's ever pulled in his life would have been earlier in his life. He maybe had the Toth deck earlier in his life, and he also had the Aleister Crowley deck, but that's a whole other story, because it took us a long time to get Aleister out, because you can't give Aleister away, right? Anyways, you can't. Anyways, so and my husband only really, he's taken the course with me with Colette. So he only oracle cards he really looked at were really Colette's, and years ago the tarot. Because he's a dabbler. So when he came to use my cards and do that process where I just showed you, where you're just looking at the image and you got to decide what it is, or else look at the letter, or else get a word. Okay, so he did it, and he pulled 7 cards, and of the 7 cards, only one of them did he look at the image and get something like where he goes, oh, that's water. Okay, so but every other image he didn't see anything, and every other image he actually didn't even see anything when he put the letter together with it. He got every other word from the back of the cards, because every one of us are going to be different, and that's why they're working that way. Because I have other people that as soon as I've had clients, I hold the card up and they, like, before I even got it in focus, they've already gone, kaleidoscope. They've already got a word. They're already writing their thing. It's just, it's interesting. That's all I'm going to say, that the way that the prompts have been guided to me to put them this way, which didn't make sense to me. I did not know why I was writing friggin' word lists for 18 months. Why? But
and we don't pass our work, right? I mean, we finish it all the way to the end, and that's the whole thing. We follow through. There's a follow through. It's like you can give any message. You can tell someone the so-and-so from the dead is with you. You can do this. I can give you a little bit of advice, but it's the follow through. It's how are we going to clean this up? How are we going to heal? How are we going to move forward? So the whole system, it actually has a follow through. It follows all the way through to you cleaning your words and to be able to move into knowing that you're now not going to be triggered by it the same way. And it changes. Like, it's the magic behind it. It's something beautiful. It's the magic of miracles and transformation of life that really truly starts to happen when you feel yourself feeling differently. It's a different feeling. So she actually, the whole system, so the system fully comes all the way through. So there's a whole process to clean the word, right?
Yeah,
It's
like I mean, there's a whole process. No matter what you decide to do, whether you decide you're going to come in and find some words and do that process, whether you're going to come in and try to build yourself a mantra because you realize that you're a self saboteur at work and you always get treated like shit because you sabotage yourself, but you know exactly what you're doing and you don't want to do it anymore. You can make a mantra to support yourself so that you don't do that. And you can be specific to that. You don't have to just take some, prefabricated thing. You can get something, but not only will you get something that you can say to yourself that will be meaningful to you, but you will also get a process that you will do for X number of days to actually embody that so that you're not just giving yourself the message and not being able to fully put it into work in your life. So everything is like that. And I believe that my system is like that because I was from the land of the quitters. And what I mean by that is early in my metaphysical life, um, the land of quitters, it's a true place. Okay.
right.
It's a
Yeah.
true place. So
Explain that.
I belonged to the Unity, I belonged to the Unity Center where I lived at the time. And I went there for a long time. I ran the Sunday school. I was in charge of all the volunteers for the entire church. So I was heavily involved. And I, even while I was doing the work, I say the land of the quitters because there were a lot of us that did it. I wasn't the only one. So we would go to church, we would take classes there, and they were like, metaphysical classes. And they were like, your word is your wand. They were teaching Florence Scovel Shin. All that stuff was being taught there. But the land of the quitters means that you went and your life was kind of not so good. And you went every week and then your life got good and you got busy. You were working. Now you got a new job. Life got better. And a lot of times people would get a new relationship or whatever would happen to them. And then they wouldn't come to church
Right.
because now their life is good. And then
Yeah.
you see them show up a year later because like their life is falling apart again. So it's the land of the quitters. Like, I would start doing something, like anything, any kind of good thing. But once my life sort of seemed it was going good, I could easily quit and then whatever. So I really think that I was given this system that has this follow through thing because I came from the land of quitters and I could see how often people almost made it, but
Yes.
they quit because it got kind of good. They didn't keep going because they were willing to sort of settle for kind of good,
Kind of
right?
good.
Like, anyways, so this doesn't want you to quit. And what I've really found to be true, because I've tested it myself, is that when this deck gives you a message and you're supposed to embody it for whatever many days, or it tells you to do so many rounds, you can't do 17 rounds if it tells you 27 and expect it to be fully stuck to you because it's not going to be. If it says 27, it means 27. And it's not telling you. Your cards tell you. You figure it out yourself. So there's never anything telling you. But when you figure out your calculation and you don't do it, you will find that those messages, you don't fully embody them. That's really what I have found to be true. So
Great.
I would suggest if you do it, you want to go all the way.
Yeah.
So
That was my big why behind more than existing was, it's that whole, you get to that, the material world starts to satisfy so many pieces. And so then you just start think you're fully existing and you're happy until something else crumbles and you realize I'm just existing. And are you done just existing? Right. And are you done? Are you ready to go all the way? Are you ready to go full 360 to follow all the way through? And that's why Lisa's system and Lisa is such an important part of my journey.
right. Well, we're all important parts of each other's journey. That's for sure. And, I mean, more than existing, those are three good words. So that's what I'm going to say about that. And because they're three good words, because there is more to life than existing. So they are three good words, and we all need to think about them. So it's a good title. What did I want to say? I wanted to say something, but it's gone from my head now. So there you go. There's a live podcast moment for you.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll. That's a live podcast moment. What did I want to say about these individual little cards? There was something they wanted me to tell you, but I can't remember right now. So I'm putting them down, and maybe it'll come back to me.
Okay. Can I tell you something while you're there?
Yeah.
While you're in that thought process. So back to the Mother Mary moment, I had a huge aha, and I'm like, oh my God, we just had a full come to Jesus moment. We had a full come together, a whole return moment. Your first on my live, when I did your first reading on my live, after we all came back from Orcapalooza in Austin, and you popped onto my live, and I pulled a Mother Mary card for you.
Mm.
I'm like, and that was our first kind of like holy shit moment, when I pulled a Mother Mary card for you the day and gave you a message from Mother Mary, which of course I don't remember, because that's how channels work. We don't remember all of our work.
We don't remember.
We channel it through, it's gone. But I remember that moment because something in that moment felt magical. Something in that moment, I knew the angels, the guides, like something was so incredible. And this is what it is: unconditional love. Love. The whole word.
Now I know what I was going to say.
Okay, go.
Said that because it's about the Ho'oponopono, and the Ho'oponopono is their intention is Ho'oponopono is about having personal peace.
Yes,
that's what Ho'oponopono is about. My deck wants to clean the words, because the words keep us from being at personal peace. It's a trap, and we're all hearing them. So that's part of it. Now, the other thing is that the other part of my rejection from the major publisher was that this deck, because of the way it is not generally a quick using deck, because it's extensive. You're getting something specific to you, very specific to you. It takes some time to have that. And I knew that throughout the making of the deck. And I kept saying to my guides, can't you give me something easy to do? Like, can't there be something easy to do with this? Because, like, for me, I was used to decks like Colette's, where I pull the card and I can just look it up and read it. Okay, so I'm a human here. That's what I like. Well, why can't I have one of those? I'm telling them. Why can't I have one of those? So finally, they did give me a one card pull, but it was right near the end. I'd almost finished the writing the guidebook when they finally gave it to me, and then it was a whole bunch more work, because then I had to go back and do 104 more things. But nevertheless, they did give me a one card pull. So there is a quick one card pull that you can do with this deck. And of course, even with that, it wants you to have a little activity. It gives you an activity. It doesn't just give you a message, it gives you a little activity so you can get back to personal peace throughout your day. So I'm just saying that because that is the truth about this deck. This deck is different than other decks, and it does take time to do any of the layouts other than the one card pull. That's just a fact. So it isn't going to be for everybody, although it would definitely serve everybody who uses the English language as a main language, for sure. Anybody who's listening to the English language would benefit from using it, but it won't be for everybody because it is a longer thing. I don't think it's complex. I think that the instructions make it very easy to do.
Oh my God, it's so easy. It's like, it's so well explained, described. There's a lot of pieces to it. There's a lot of movement to it. There's a lot of, but that's life. You got to put like, living a virtuous life, living a peaceful life, finding peace, doing the right things. It takes using love to take action. And so it's loving action, action steps with a whole lot of self-love and a whole lot of self-respect and a whole lot of patience with self and a whole lot of putting a whole lot into you moves you into that direction. But if you stop and look at the simplicity of life, it is very clearly laid out for us. And that's the way the cards is that it might look like it's a lot, but it's very clear. And when you get that clarity, and I got a whole aha moment today when we're looking at something of the cards, and I'm like, oh shit, it's so clear to me now. But I was so cluttered in the beginning. It was hard to comprehend that, oh my God, there's so much to this. But it is so simple, right?
Right.
So
Well, I mean, I think that learning any new oracle is a bit complex. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, when I get Colette's new decks, I'm reading the guidebook to figure out what was her intention. How does she want us to use this ideally? Right.
well,
I mean, we're
well,
intuitive. We're going to use it how we do, but we want to know, like, and she gives you some great suggestions in there for layouts. So,
right.
And you want to be able to, follow the instructions. Well, my instructions are just a little bit different in that I laid it out more like a cookbook, saying to you, if you're doing this layout, get these things, because in my system you do have those dot to dot sheets. I call them play pads. You do have a magic wand, you do have a body map, and when you're doing a layout, it's going to tell you which one of those things should you have ready. So it makes you get all your stuff ready, like you're going to cook a banana bread, but it's really, you're cooking up a message, and you're going to need these ingredients.
Need the magic ingredients.
Right. And then you do the step by step, do this, do that, do this, do that, to get the desired result, which is, you're making a banana bread. So you're putting in those ingredients, you're mixing it together like this, you're baking it like this, and it comes out like that. And my instructions are written that way to try to make it as simple as possible inside of a system that is unique to itself. And, no one's seen it before. So you've got to try to make it somehow seem easier, because it does seem complex, but it's not that hard. That's all I'm going to say. I've taught people to do it, so I know it's not.
Right. And so it's the same thing with my deck. Like, I mean, I'm trying to complicate it because you want people, and then I mean, Lisa's work helps me in writing my books. It helps me it's like, simplify it. You don't need that much. It's like, bring it down into, it's like, what is the magic of it? Where do you create the magic? And it's like, the power of your words don't mean you need 1,000 of them. It means you need to have words that are clean, full of love. What is your loving intention behind everything? And how do you create that? And how do you bring that forward? And so that's and the magic wand really helps. It really does, because there's a dot to dot process. There's a magic wand, because when we're returning to the essence of our angelic self and to our whole return on the way home, you discover that we're here to enjoy life as a kid with wonder and awe, and return to the innocence of us, to that sense of curiosity and determination to learn something, to grow. And it's like, there's a childlike essence that when you start to understand joy and find peace. When you find peace, you realize that that peace is actually in the innocence of the childlike of us. And so before class, I was talking to Lisa about the Jezebel energy. And I'm like, that was my word. I mean, I use the Jezebel because it's like that. What distracts us is, so we get distracted by life, by the twinkles, by the beauty, by the by even in relationships, it's someone's cuteness that distracts us, or right. We get so distracted by things, but it's like, what distracts us from our peace? And that's the Jezebel energy. It's like, we're getting distracted from our peace. What's distracting you from your peace? What's keeping you from your inner peace? And what is the things in life that we believe to be, someone's words or someone's energy, or the fact that somebody else might have something that may look prettier, or so then we start to have that, when it doesn't flow, we get that resentment, we get frustrated, we get that anger. And when we can just let it all go, when we can surrender and say, we're not looking for the material world beauty, we're looking for inner peace that makes us feel beautiful, that makes us feel whole, that makes us feel content, then things start to change. So it's like the system has something that is so beautiful about it, that is so clean about it, that is so peaceful about it, that it doesn't need anything fancier than, and there's a lot to it, it's very fancy, but there's something peaceful every card that you look at. That the moment you look at it, you're not in such a desire to find something of it, you're actually admiring the beauty. And that's what I find. When you're looking at the cards, sometimes I just sit and admire the beauty instead of trying to even find anything else about it. And then I find out that I'm being like a kid when I'm playing with the cards, because I don't have to do anything specific. I just have to flip them and look at them, and it starts to want me to dig further. It wants me to look further. It wants me to go further.
Prompting you, because they consider themselves prompts. So they prompt you. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to prompt you. And because you're already that type of person, you're using them like that. Not everybody would necessarily have that experience that you're having, but they might. It's going to be different for everybody how they prompt them. Some people who are really wordy, they might not be looking at the images, but they might be working with those word lists, because and the word lists oddly were made with all the letters the same, which is like, I see a lot of these the first three words that you get or whatever, find the first three words or whatever, that you see those. And I always think, yeah, I could kind of do that with my cards, except my cards don't all have good words on them. Some of the words are not that nice. And I go, I don't think I want someone to pick the first three words and think expiring, exercise, and, exempt. I mean, those are not going to make somebody feel good if they necessarily see those as their first three words. There's nice ones, but what if you don't see the ones that say special and sunny and, sweet? What if you don't see those ones? You might get
Right?
upset. So I don't
Why,
use them that
why
way.
would we
But
have to send those?
word people like the wordless. You know, I just find it's interesting to me, because I made the backs and the fronts separately, and they were never joined together until they went to be pressed together. And so I never really knew, how the front and the back went together. It wasn't until I started working with the front, and I would have the meaning of this card. I think this one, what's this one called? Let me look. I don't want to say the wrong thing, because that would be.
While you're looking it up, I'll tell you what, like when you said that, I'm just like hands coming together. So it's like when the painting and the words came together, there was this came together. It's like in this place of peace, like everything finally fell together. And that's our life, when we can fall together with our energy, with our words, with our thoughts. We come in alignment. And that's what the cards to me did. They're in alignment to the highest good of all.
Right. So this card calls itself Circling the Truth. Oh, I have it upside down. Calls itself Circling the Truth. And it is an X card. It's got the letter X on it. Now, it's funny that they made me have this card. So that's so funny, because that's a true story. A true story of resistance. So when they started to tell me that these were, I was going to make wordless. Okay. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not saying, I'd say that I was a good listener, and I was a good listener, but I didn't always just immediately do it. I did have resistance at different times. So for instance, when they said to me I was going to make wordless, I had resistance to that. And one of the first resistances that I had was, well, what about the letter X? I go, I can't do a card for X. I didn't even know I was going to have to do 4 cards for every letter at this point. I didn't know that. I was just resisting at the beginning, going, I can't make a word list for X. Like, there's not even hardly any words that start with X, right? So I was like,
Yes.
you guys are wrong. I don't need to make them damn lists. And then they go, Lisa, you can use words that begin with EX, and there's a lot of them. And oh my God, they were right. There are so many words that begin with EX. It's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. So I had resistance. Like every time something logical like that could say, well, you're not going to have enough words that begin with X. I'd said the same thing about Z. I'm not going to have enough for Z. Q. I also said it for Q. I tried 3 times, but they didn't let me out of it. And so I made the word list. And they were an 18-month process because I didn't just get to pick words. I had to go through this entire friggin' thing to get to the words that are on these cards. And I have boxes of writing to prove how many words I went through. But if I
That's why we're guides and not gurus.
Right. So this is the X card. Now this card is called Circling the Truth. Now, I didn't know that this name, Circling the Truth, was going to go with this particular necessarily. Like, I didn't know the name of this card or what this card was going to look like when I made the list, because they tricked me also before they had me make the list. They made me think I had halfway done the art, and they got me doing the lists. And when I was finished the lists and went back to doing the art, then they told me that art was not the art. And they told me to go buy 104 painting canvases because I was now going to paint the cards. I almost cried because it was November. And I thought, how am I going to paint 104 paintings? And I had them done by December 31st. They just came like so fast once it happened. But anyway, so I did not know what picture, what image would be with these lists of words. I knew the words now had colors attached to them, but I still didn't know what the pictures would look like. And I couldn't keep all those lists of words in my head. So while I was making the pictures, there was no attachment. Then I attached them. Then I had cards, and now I have a card saying Circling the Truth. That's the name of it, Circling the Truth. And then I have all these words. And the first word that makes me see here is extra logical. So what is this little conversation that I'm having right now? It's extra logical. I'm trying to give you a logical example of this system. And so, to do it, I actually started and began to get extra logical about it in order to give it to you. So these cards work like that. When you look to the back side for a word to go with what the front side says, you're going to get it. So they're saying to me, I'm circling the truth, trying to be extra logical instead of just saying to you guys, these cards are pretty magical. And really, I didn't know they were going to be that magical, but my guides did. And they really will help you. And I should really just say it like that. But, I want to be extra logical and make sure that you get it so that you'll want to do it. But my guides are saying you don't really actually need to. You're circling the truth. The truth is that they do work. You've done all the experiments and you know it. So why are you circling around it trying to make it extra logical? Right? So
exactly.
There you go.
And I'm very extra logical. So I get right to that point, Gary, to that truth is they're freaking magical. The cards to me are, and it's like what seems like it should be so crazy, so out there, but that's kind of how we work with almost everything we do. It sounds like, we spent a lot of time hiding our crazy, our weird, and it's like this channel was, these channels that we are and what would channels through us is like, was bursting at the seams, and we were so far away from ourselves and losing ourselves in a world where we kept quitting on ourselves and leaving ourselves until we stepped into our light and said, this is it. We have to do this. We have to be who we are and let our weird, crazy, wacky self be. And let's see what the channel is trying to tell us to bring. What is the light of the God conscious trying to shine upon me so that I can see that light within me? And this was it. And for Lisa, this was the creation. She is the word alchemist. There's magic to what she does. She's somebody who's, she humbly sits with this, and to me I think it's super spectacular of the creation and how the painting, the card came together to be able to help the world in a big way, which all the world don't yet know of, or anything that we do that is of pure intention and high intention, like our highest intention of all is love. And this is us returning to unconditional love. We don't do what we do out of the desire of where's it going to take us, not to be in the imposter light, to be some sort of like celebrity or to be anything great. We did it out of a calling. We're called to be who we are. We're called to be this person and to be this. And this system is called upon. More than existing was a calling. I did not know that it was going to be all these levels and writings and 6 books and my own deck of oracle cards. I didn't know that was all coming. And I didn't have a desire to say, well, I want to be this person or I want to have this. Neither did you. You started with buying the canvases. You started with writing out the words. You started with doing this. And that's an act of love and dedication to, okay, whatever I was doing before was not working. I have to make a change. I have to just follow my heart, follow the truth, and not be circling around everything and just accept it is what it is. And I have to just start creating. I don't know what it'll look, and not have a desire of exactly what things should look like. And to be able to trust that from a place within, that we're doing something that is for the highest good of ourselves as well, that we feel better. We don't feel like we're exploding and losing ourselves, and like not caught in so much like suppressing all of who we are. And if I could, get you to end with one message of the act of love towards self, what is the thing that you have done in your world to more than exist that has been the biggest act of love towards you on this journey of creation?
That's a big question. My biggest thing that I've done is to surrender to the Ho'oponopono and simply say thank you to everything that's happening. I would say that is, bar none, the biggest change, the biggest game-changing thing in my life, even though I've done so many people's things. For me, the Ho'oponopono, the magic that is in it, and the fact that we don't have to know what it is that we're cleaning. We can just clean it. And I think that for a lot of people who have been traumatized in their life, like I was, it makes it easier when you're using Ho'oponopono, because you don't necessarily have to feel that you're going to have to bring back up things that you don't really want to fully experience again. So I find that Ho'oponopono, this moving into that, has been the single greatest blessing, that. And it wasn't that I didn't know about it before 50, because I knew about Ho'oponopono when Joe Vitale found Hugh Len. I knew about it before.
That was years ago, right now.
I knew about it when it happened, because that's the kind of life and circle I was in. So I did know about the Ho'oponopono, but I didn't believe in its simplicity, because I was a, stuck up New Ager, let's just say, that everything that I had taken up to that point was a complicated process. Whatever, like you had to strip yourself down to build yourself back up. And I'm not saying those things don't work, but there was a lot of complicated practices. And, you had to take this and do the fire like this, and you had to do this and you had to do that. And there was a lot of exactness to it, to most things. So, Ho'oponopono to me at that time seemed way too simple to actually work. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. My life was, I had a complicated life, because I was kind of like a stuck up New Ager, like thinking that I have to say "aw" for 20 minutes every day, or else like I'm in trouble. Like, so, I was in a different mindset. So it didn't work for me, because I couldn't really fully engage it. But when I did fully engage it, I found out that indeed it's so simple, and we're looking for complicated. We're looking for complicated. So, It was so simple. I would say that besides my own cards and Colette's cards, those would be my three tools. Would be that I do practice Ho'oponopono daily, momently, constantly, and I use my cards a lot because I'm using them every day with other people. So I use them a lot, and they keep me clean, because even just looking at them will help clean you. Like, even if they're just in your room with you, they're going to clean you, because that's what they want to do. They're cleaning. And so, between those and Colette's cards and my Ho'oponopono, you know, I I have those are tools that I find very helpful. I would also say I find the tools of having a few choice friends like yourself and a few others that, between those things, I'm able to navigate my life in a fairly good way in a fairly complicated, chaotic earth experience. Let's just say that this is a chaotic earth experience, and I feel like I'm pretty okay. I'm able to be at peace. My cards want me to be at peace, and I had to learn to be at peace, because I was not at peace inside me, because of the things that happened in my life allowed me to have a lot of thoughts that were not thoughts that went along with the idea of peace. They were not. So, I am the first user of this system, because I am the perfect candidate for this system, because I use words a lot. I'm a big talker, and I always have been. And I hear a lot of words all the time in my own head. And a lot of the words that I heard did not support my highest good. They did not. So I'm a perfect candidate, because I had things, I could be saying things on the outside, or I could have Corrie tell me, "Oh, you're so great," or whatever. But I had other dialogue that um, would disagree with that. Now, when Corrie's saying that to me here, I don't have a dialogue that's disagreeing with it, but I have a dialogue that's saying this as she says it: of my own self, I do nothing. Without spirit, I am nothing. None of this would have happened without that. So even as you say it, I accept that I've done it. And then I accept that I haven't done it, because that's the truth. I haven't really done it. And I have to live in that body, because that's the only body that can actually do this work without being um, led by the ego or any of the trappings that could be there. Because certainly, my guides tell me I got that so I could clean myself up. And the benefit of it is that they gave me something that could help other people. And they gave it to me because I called myself Lisa by Grace Go I. And I made a covenant with spirit that I would do God's work, and that I was willing to live by grace. And this is what they gave me. So, as much as I don't want to be a 60-year-old woman who has, like, my lipstick leaks into the lines of my lips, and, I have gray hairs that are starting to come out. And as much as I don't want to be on camera, and I have to make sure everything is just, right every day. Like, there's a part of me that just, didn't really want the gig, but I got the gig.
Again, yeah.
So I'm doing the gig because the gig arrived, and I made a covenant, and I have to honor the covenant that I made to spirit. But, so yes, I do. It may seem like I'm like extra too humble or something like that, but I'm not extra too humble. I did do the paintings. I did do the lists, but I was completely guided in all those things. And when the girl says to me, the girl that turned me down says to me, that artwork is stunning. I'm like thinking to myself, "Oh, wow, I didn't really think that much of it myself," but I'm certainly surprised, because for me, I did do it, but I don't also feel like I did it. So, it's I'm okay. I'm okay. I know I did it. I know I'm smart. I know I listened and everything. But, the truth is, I'm not doing this because I did it. I'm doing it because Spirit did it through me. And you're doing what you're doing because Spirit's doing it through you. And that's really the truth. And when we remember that, we are able to do our work and we don't have to worry about things. Like, I really haven't made any money all year doing what I do. I really haven't.
We haven't made no big amount of money.
I haven't made a big amount of money, and I don't even really care. I mean, I know that people might say you should care, but this is what I know. I have a covenant with Spirit, and I'm told that this is work that I should do. So I expect Spirit to take care of me. And I don't plan what that's really going to look like, because I know that Spirit has a different plan that I can't even see, because I would have never imagined this. So I try not to get stuck. I do sometimes, because I am human and I do want things a certain way as a human. But in truth, when I'm really when I'm in my best place, I am willing to live by grace, because grace has given me things that I would have never, ever given myself. So, I would say to everybody, make an active commitment, make an active covenant with Spirit, whatever you believe it to be. Yeah. And when you make an active covenant like that, if you are willing to live it, you will be pleasantly surprised. And my guides told me, oh, go on there and do 20 videos, do 20 nights. I'm thinking, do 20 nights. Okay, I'll do 20 nights. But they don't tell me what I'm going to do. But partway through it, I realized they're trying to show me again. What are they showing me? They're not showing me I'm great. They're showing me they're there for me every single effing time. Every effing time. Every effing time. Right. All I got to do is go, and they are there. And I have nothing to worry about. And that if I could transfer that moment to the rest of my life, if I could transfer that to what am I going to make for dinner today, if I could take that same attitude and go, it's going to be, it's all taken care of. There's already a plan for dinner, just because I don't know it, but I don't implement it the same, in my life. So I'm a work in progress, like everybody, because if my guides always tell me, Lisa, if you could just do the same thing that you do about this system when you're working with it, if you could just do that in the rest of your life, you really would have it going on. There might be something to brag about. But until then, just keep quiet.
If we had this figured out, if we had done this, if we listened to it all, but it's like I said, when I got out of my own way, when I moved out of my own way, and I just trusted what I was asking, and I stopped asking out of desperation, and I started allowing that Spirit works through us. And it's that whole sense in the book I write, when I took myself off my own cross, when I stopped placing myself in my own suffering, when I made a choice to choose me, when I wanted the world to start working for me. So when I started to walk the way home, and realizing that the way home was in such a simple, beautiful way, when you just allow Spirit to work with you. Have faith in the process. Have faith in something inside of you as much as you can have faith in something that you can't see outside of you, or something that you place in somebody else. Have faith that who you are to just show up and is enough, and that the faith that the God consciousness, what is working through us, will show up for us each and every day.
Yeah.
And if you just allow it, not resist it or try to control it, let go of control. Right. Surrendering that over and trusting that life is being cleared. When you can, so in that whole sense of cleaning and clearing is, I see me. And if I see God, I see me. If I can see the light in me, then that means I can let go, forgive. I forgive, I love you, I forgive you for thinking you were ever responsible to carry that weight of the world, or to be in that, to be constantly holding on to that, and to be able to find that sense of saying, I love you to yourself, and it's, I love you enough to do the work for you. Mm-hmm. I love you enough to believe that you're worthy of something more than being here in this state of desperation. And we're here to live, and more than existing is about living, and it's about keeping it real, not trying to be somebody you're not, or following I call it the imposter lights of wanting to be something outside of that. Just be present with this and sit with this inner self and allow our life to just unfold in such a beautiful way of not every day is going to be beautiful. Not every day is going to be easy, but it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be real. And it's a real present. And we are here for the human experience. And
Right. Right.
Lisa's work helps make it easier.
Right. Well, all good. There's so many good works that make things easier, and none of us know what's going to be something like we could say your program would benefit anybody who could go through it. We could say that my cards could benefit anybody who would use them, but we can't say if we are meant to be a person that, has 500 people that ever see it, or 500,000 people that see it, or 5 million people that see it. We don't know. That is spirits. That is spirits. I'll just say that's spirits domain as to, what thing can serve a greater amount of people. And I believe that if you have one of those things, it will be one of those things that could get delivered there. And I don't really necessarily believe that you have to strive hard for that part. What I necessarily believe is that you just have to do your day-to-day stuff. And if something's meant to happen for more people to be affected by what spirit gave you, then that will happen and you won't have to make it happen. So, I get myself out of my own way when I remind myself of those great truths. So, I'm glad that I have this and that has served the few people that it has served. And if it does happen to get to be at a place where more people get served by it, I am grateful for that. But I know that the divine plan is the sublime plan, and all my planning is just poppycock along the way. I mean, come on. We were going to go to Turks and Caicos in April of this year to have a retreat. And that was some good planning, but it didn't happen. Right. Yeah. So it just shows you that spirit has a plan. We don't know what that is. When we surrender and we're okay with it, then it's okay. I could have flipped my lid when I thought that 2020 was going to be the year that I could get this all out. And I had this whole retreat planned with Corrie and Michelle. And we were going down there and we were going to have a great time, and my cards were going to come out and everything was going to happen. And then March happened, and then there was no trip, and there's been no cards come out, and we're almost at a new year. And I could be like a lot of different places than where I am, but I am at peace because I have surrendered to the fact that spirit knows better than I do. And I just show up to do what I'm told to do. And there's always a gift in it for me, no matter what. So even though I haven't made money this year, I've received a lot of gifts. And those gifts you can't buy. So, money is immaterial at some points. We all need it to operate in this earth plane, but it really is immaterial. And we're all going to find these things out as we move into Aquarius. We really are. So,
yes, we are.
Buckle our seatbelts.
That's a whole other story, and we could spend forever talking about all of these things because there's so many things that Lisa and I can go into that we are aware of through spirit in our channeling and in our work. But we only got so much time, so I want to thank you, and I want everybody to know of the people, the women in my life who are a huge part of my life. And I always say, I didn't do this alone. I don't do this alone. And I don't walk this all by myself. There's many amazing people, and there's much amazing work out there. And as much as I'd love for everybody to do my work, I also want everyone to explore and find what aligns and suits you. And Lisa is one of those people. Her work is on Facebook, Lisa Starr Francis. And she's on there every single day. She is loyal to her page every morning. But also she has an amazing website. I always say she's got an amazing website, lisastarfrancis.com, and you can subscribe and you can get her emailed words, and it's so incredible. it's magic. It lights you. It lights up your day. It lights up our lives. And Lisa lights up my life. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for being my friend. And thank you for approaching me in Austin, Texas, and reminding me of my light. So I love you with all of my heart. And thank you for joining me today. And I'll have all of Lisa's information also down below in the description box, so you can find her so simple and easily. So thank you all, and thank you, Lisa. I love you.
Corrie.